Ashish, who's coordinating for this conference. Along with me is Dr. Sinha, who is from the National Disaster Management Authority, and will be giving our inputs on disaster management and animals in disaster throughout this session. And to begin with, I would request Dr. Sinha to share his inputs on what are the provisions for animals in disaster management as per the National Disaster Management guidelines and the documents that we have in place right now.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning, everybody. As you know, that animal, unlike our country, Animal Welfare Board of India, we are not really the hardcore of animal welfare, but we have been running some components, some programs at national level, component of which pertains to the livestock and animals in disaster, which eventually result in looking after the welfare of animals in distress. So, I just take you through my title of our strategy, policies, and Disaster Management Authority is running a national program. Basically, it's a component of the larger program, that is Livestock Disaster Management. That pertains to every aspect living the living things in disaster situation, be it epidemic, pandemic, war, terrorism, livestock epidemic, something like that. So, part of every disaster management is one component of that overall program. So, before I go to the main subject, I would like to advise you a bit about NDMA. The National Disaster Management Body is a body, policy making body. The Government of India is headed by Honorable Prime Minister as the chairman. And under the Prime Minister, we have 8 honorable members, Minister of State status, and our Vice Chairman, in the status of Cabinet Minister of the Government of India. And as per Disaster Management Act 2005, we are empowered to oversee the establishment of institutional mechanisms and other policy implementation at various levels of administration. NDM is actually adequate financial arrangements also. We have our own budgets for disaster mitigation projects, as well as we have the regulatory provisions also. We can implement the respective governments, reduce district disaster management authorities for extending their administrative as well as registries of people programs. Our mandate involves a holistic approach. Before tsunami, our approach to disaster management was not response centric. We used to act only when the disaster is in place and administration is really perhaps and everybody is looking for relief and rescue of things. But now, and in 2005, after the formation of NDMA, we have been taking a holistic policy that we at the first step will try to prevent the disaster from coming. There should not be any disaster, then after the preparedness and then mitigation and all the rehabilitation. So it's a complete cycle, and this our current mandate emphasizes on accountability. The relief had some sort of charity connotation, but it's not as per Supreme Court guidelines. It is a mandate upon the district administration to go for these measures to be taken in place. Us is also applicable under this act. If you recall, sometime back there was a fire in Jaipur, both SP and district magistrate, they were facing criminal charges for not adhering to the guidelines. So it is no longer that it's a one-time charity, it is mandatory and accountability component is there. We have a threefold mandate. Just to prepare national guidelines for respective state, ministry and departments. Then, based on those guidelines, we prepare a national plan. The national plan with respective ministries, departments, agencies, which are going to implement it to the ground level, and thereafter coordinate its implementation at the grassroots level also. So it's a threefold given to NDMA. In NDMA, we perceive this animal protection equally important and complement of existing natural hazards with man-made hazards. It could be natural, it could be flood, and it could be man-made also, intentional. So, as you said, our SPC activities are undertaking, if this falls into the man-made hazard, but we primarily focus on natural hazard. The component of that is also biodiversity and man-made hazards. So, both are we consider both very important and complementary. Primarily, we also take off disaster situations. Natural, that could be flood, cyclone, earthquake, epidemic, pandemic. In 2009, we had swine flu. Currently, we are having a current outbreak of bird flu. And bird flu is taking place time and again. It's almost a recurring phenomenon now. The accidental could be fire or chemical spill also in the vicinity of industrial areas. And lastly, it could be intentional. There is some terrorist organizations or some hostile country going for. Intentional poisoning or intentional sabotage or risks of actually. These three origin of disaster situation unfolds a scenario of the economic impact also, because once your water industry is impacted recently due to this bird flu in Karnataka, Bangalore, immediately Tamil Nadu and Kerala put the complete restriction of the movement of telescopic poultry across the border. And not only that, even the Jordan and Oman, which countries to import this quantity of eggs and poultry, they put a ban on that thing. So it resulted into cascading into complete economic impact also. Then sociological impact is there because Indian society primarily religion-based societies, animals have been very important component of our day-to-day social basis life also. So any happening in the background, there is any earthquake, behind, in case of bovine. So your weather has to be there in time, otherwise some religious elements come and complicate the problem for the administration. So just sociological impact is there. Emotional impact, as you can also see in this picture, this during 2006 outbreak of bird flu, this lady was totally unaware that this she is going to sacrifice has died of bird flu, and she is holding it close to her. She is totally unaware that this virus could hit her also. So the social impact, the emotional impact is equally there. And she presently in her flood. And here has very tremendous problem because people were not leaving their flood area without leaving their cattle behind. They were so attached to their cows and goats and poultry, so they are not willing to be evacuated. So it is a very strong emotional component as well. And lastly, the political component, you can see when in 2003 there was SARS outbreak. So across so many countries altogether restrict the movement from China and Hong Kong. So it has got some political component also because at times that has some bearings on your diplomatic relations. So these are some complicated situations which unfolds in the case of disaster. In NDMA, we have considered the imperatives that to go for and we should go for this disaster management if this annual component in place. So our primary challenging concern is societal and constitutional obligation. As we discussed under Article 51, we are obligated to show compassion to the animals. But at the same time, since our religion and societal attachment with these animals also compel us to not go against these conventional age-old practices and age-old implication of the animal emergency. Then public health concern is there. I inform you that the bird flu is gradually mutating and it's already having a significant number of mortality in Southeast Asian countries. Recently I had to do data and there was a special program on this bird flu, and the virus is only mutation away from a pandemic virus. If it comes, situation will be altogether different. We have very disastrous implications in India. Lastly, we have national security implications also. As on date, almost 14 to 15% of your GDP is coming from the livestock sector. Apart from that, if these genetic diseases go for transmission migration and impact human population, so it has the potential to be on national security also. So these are the four imperatives which are considering for policy and study. As part of the broader question, the first part is that we go for formulation of national guidelines. This national guideline is compilation of technical, administrative and regulatory provisions which are to be observed for prevention, mitigation, response and rehabilitation during a disaster conditions. This guideline is prepared through 9 stages of consultative process where we invite every conceivable stakeholders, administrators, technical persons, bureaucrats, politicians, NGOs, and their deliberations goes into making this comparison of this guideline. And after finalization of this guideline, this becomes a policy document. This guideline was finalized in July 2008, and now it stands as a policy document which every district authority has to follow. Subsequently, we go for preparation of national action plan, which is prepared by the nodal ministry. The nodal ministry for this guideline is Ministry of Agriculture. And thereafter, we have this supervision and monitoring and coordination of emergency during agri crisis hours. Disaster management cycle is a holistic cycle. You start right from prevention, and this is about the pre-disaster and post-disaster. Pre-disaster prevention, mitigation, preparedness. Once the disaster sets in, thereafter entire justice towards relief, response, rescue, and reconstruction and rehabilitation. So it's a complete cycle of disaster management. The same applies to the livestock disaster management also, animal disaster also. Our institutional framework is a 4-tier dimension set at apex level at NDMA. And below NDMA we have NCMC, that is called National Crisis Management Committee, which is headed by Cabinet Secretary of Government of India. Cabinet Secretary and 14 secretaries of respective ministry. Then we have NEC, National Executive Council, which is headed by Home Secretary of the Union of India and 24 secretaries of state and ministries. NCMC comes during the crisis management. Once the disaster has taken place at that time, NCMC comes, and before that, for all mitigation and preparedness activities, we have this NEC, so Executive Council. And under that, we have 4 nodal ministries. Ministry of Home Affairs for any kind of disaster has to be mandatory coordinated through the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare for health reliefs and medical interventions. Ministry of Environmental and Forest for environmental monitoring of and safe disposal of carcass, environmental monitoring during disaster. And finally, the principal nodal ministry is the Ministry of Agriculture to coordinate all activities pertaining to the animal disaster management. Below this, we have 2 different tiers of DMA, that is State Disaster Management Authority, that is again advisory and regulatory body, and the real execution lies at the DDMA, that is called District Disaster Management Authority. And the district director happens to be the chairman of this body. As the in the power of district DDMA chairman, he is empowered to oversee the entire disaster management cycle. We have 10 specialized battalions placed all across the country. These are called NDR battalions, National Disaster Response Force. One battalion consists of almost 1100 well-trained people, well-trained, well-equipped, and well-motivated people placed all across the country at 10 different locations, so that in case of any emergency, immediately they chip in as a first responders. In peace hour, and during when there is no any emergency at that time, they go for training and preparedness also. They hold so many programs for training the people for the disaster management, and if you are working at the grassroots level, you can take advantage of this their training capacities and infrastructure also. So we have 10 specialized battalions: Chandigarh, Greater Noida, Patna, Guwahati, Kolkata, then Bhubaneswar, Hyderabad, Chennai, Gandhinagar, Pune, Raipur, and Nagpur. These are the 10 specialized battalions. Key component for disaster management program is prevention and preparedness, mitigation to minimize the impact of disaster, then response for crisis management, and finally the recovery and rehabilitation of the affected people and population of ours. Currently, we are preparing our national disaster management action plan that consists of 4 components. That is, first is awareness generation and sensitization through mass outreach programs like training workshop, training topic studies, modeling, etc. Giving institutionalizing the regulatory oversight, also strengthening the existing biosurveillance mechanism with the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Ministry of Health and Family Affairs, and finally capacity building of emergency veterinary response. In this point, I would like to say that through WSPA, we are likely to formulate one MOU. And part of that, we will go to the respective rural areas and we are going to establish 5 regional BU centers. Veterinary emergency response center. These centers will be based at veterinary colleges. But here we will be including training for training of veterinarians, para-veterinarians and farmers also to help during the crisis hours. So these are the 4 fold. So in itself, this was in conclusion we can say that the management of animal disaster and animal protection both are complementary first. Then secondly, we have this sustained and comprehensive and inclusive simplification approach required at the national level, state level and district level as well. And finally, all the NGOs have the potential to be a major stakeholder, because if we channel, we have 2 options: either to channel our all programs through the institutional existing bureaucracy, but that would be time consuming and very taxing. At the same time, if the motivated NGOs are working at industry level, we can take this component to industry level. So I can request, in case if we happen to conduct any program on animal protection, we can keep one component on disaster management also. Management of livestock and animal during disasters. And I assure you, on behalf of NDMA, we can assist you through manpower, through technical expertise, through finance, through administrative and policy measures also. So NDMA sincerely looks forward for this cooperation. And sorry, will be coming you through WSPA. So this in itself was regarding the NDMA program strategy and policy. And if you have any question at all, please. Or as my parent continuity is hardcore disaster ramifications. You can reach me at this email ID also, contact me also. And appreciate if ever you happen to contact any program, do give me a call. Okay? And you will be more than happy to join. Thank you. They are certified courses free of cost. See, it's a government and we do not charge anything. Our sole objective is just to train the manpower at grassroots level, taking the people from community themselves, so that in during crisis hours they can complement the administration and administrative measures to minimize the impact of disasters. So we have reserve of trained volunteers, trained veterinarians, para-veterinarians. It's totally free of cost. And NDRF is conducting unique training programs for the. Thank you.
Emergency communication plan. Because mostly in the emergency situation, you are playing volunteers, you are not reach out. Say floods or you will be having what is it is through the district collector only. What is it is convention or some?
As per the protocol, it is district collector and Department of Communication.
So the collector communicates to all of them by convention.
Yeah, the protocol is that he is the incident commander. We have a system of ICS. That is what incident command system. So any disaster situation has to follow some certain administrative protocols. As per the protocol, the district collector is the incident commander. He will take all the policy and the operational decisions. There are certain disaster situations which are man-made like nuclear. In that, there could be a critical departure, chemical, because that we specialized interventions.
Valuable inputs on disaster management. So, I just before I go through the disaster management, I just would like to know how many of you have been experienced in working in disaster management. So, disaster management is a new subject altogether. So, actually, WSPA, I'll be talking on WSPA's work in India. and also about the disaster management work that we are doing. So disaster management is one of the departments in the WSPA that we are working on. Apart from disaster management, we have other work also. But I will be talking more about the disaster management work of the WSPA in this session. So this is what we are here for in India, to say that animals matter in disasters. So we are always here to say that people often find it very difficult to see animals in a disaster situation because people are affected and it's difficult to manage the needs of the people in a disaster situation. So the animal has no place at all. So we are always trying to push the government, push the stakeholders, push whoever people, the community as such, in a coordinated manner to see that animals always matter in a disaster situation. So this is the topic that I'll be talking about. Before we go into the presentation, I have a small, just a icebreaker. It's called chocolate play. I have some chocolates with me. So there is a small bowl. Are we ready for chocolates? Yes. So I don't have a plate, but I feel I can use the same cover as a plate. So the rule is, I'm very sorry, Dr. Ekesana cannot participate. And I request Dr. Dasher, Mr. Dasher. So just to volunteer out of the game for time being. The rest can participate. So these both are not in the game. So this game is called chocolate play. And I have some chocolates with me. But there is one condition. I can give the chocolate to whoever asks. So if you ask, I can give the chocolate. So I have the chocolate is here and it's with me, but I am ready to give, but I can give to whoever asks. So who wants chocolate?
Anything can ask.
Yeah, anything. Who wants chocolate?
Is it vegan?
Yes.
It's vegan? It's vegan
Vegan?
chocolate?
Yeah, I hope so.
We just take don't eat.
You just have to ask.
Just take don't eat.
Okay, you can just take and ask as much as you can.
Yeah.
Okay, can I please have one chocolate, please?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Chocolate.
Please ask for it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Why is it given as chocolate?
More? More? I have a lot of chocolates. You can ask as many as you want. As many as you want. One is sufficient? If you want, you can have the full packet if you want. Anyone wants to have the full packet? Who needs more chocolates? More? Sufficient? So actually you all are really very good bunch of people and so the message from this is just
You move me out, so the back to your responsibility.
yeah, sure.
Whatsoever is left over is us.
Yeah, okay. I'm coming to that part. Thank you. So actually, the thing that we can take from this chocolate play game is that we are in a disaster affected area where everyone is affected and in need of a chocolate, need of a relief. But the need can reach the people who actually want, who asks for it. And the government is in a position to give to whoever is demanding it. And some people who are not able to demand it stay without receiving the relief. This is the case of people. And where do the animals play? They don't have a park to play around here. They're out of the game. So we need to put them, bring them into the game. So we are people, we have a lot of problems within the people in the community itself in terms of how we need to manage the disaster situation, meeting the needs of the people. So where we are playing a game with the people, where the animals are nowhere in the game that we are talking about disaster management. So I think this topic will go through this. Actually needs, people in the animals in need. So, big hand of applause to all. Thank you. So this is why we come back to the message. We say that animals matter in disaster. So we are always here to advocate saying that animals matter a lot in disaster. It's not only people. And the approach of WSPA is always working in coordination with all the stakeholders with the government, with the local NGOs, with the community, with the whoever of the local stakeholders existing in that area. We work in coordination with all the stakeholders and in a coordinated manner. So this is our approach. So coming to the session, we will be seeing in brief about the concepts of disaster management. I think some of you might be aware of the concept, but I'll just rush through. And the disaster risk management cycle, which Dr. Kisna has already shared, but I'll just rush that through just to have a brief idea of the cycle. And then the disaster impact on animals in India. And we have a guidelines called Livestock Emergency Guidelines and Standards. So this is an international guidelines which is called Livestock Emergency Guidelines and Standards, focusing on only the livestock and not the wildlife or the companion animals. We only addressing the needs of the livestock. So this has been, I'll be talking very briefly about this in a while. So this is actually similar to the SPEAR project, if you are aware about. There is a project, this is for international standards for people in disaster, humanitarian standards. So this is something that complements SPEAR for livestock. The needs of the livestock in disaster, how we can address the needs. This is for the people, this is for livestock. So we are working something for companion animals also globally. So coming to that, after that we will be seeing about WSPA's disaster management initiatives in India. So what WSPA has been doing since its inception in India, in brief. Then the national disaster management structure, which I'm not going to go in detail to that, just slide to just share about the structure of it. Then what are the disaster management resources we can make use of? That anyone can make use of their resources, either to develop our own selves, our own team, or to promote awareness. So there's a whole lot of resources of disaster management which will be of very good help to your organization, which you can take from here also. So these are the things that will be seen in this session. So to go to the concepts, I have an image here. So here I just would like you to just have a look at this picture here. What can we observe from this picture? What can we see from this image here?
Medicine here.
Medicine?
Here.
Here. Okay. Medicine here.
And it's happy and unaware of the disaster on the right of the corner.
Okay, right. So there's another idea that is unaware that there is a disaster that could strike. Yes. Very good. Same. Yeah, very good. What else? There's some chair fallen down there. Just very relaxed.
He is seeing that somebody is already been cut off, but he is believing that it cannot happen to him.
Right. So what is this lion capable of doing in this scenario?
Right now, he seems to be smiling.
Yeah, so it's smiling exactly. The lion looks very happy.
I think the man cannot see the lion.
Oh yeah.
Because
So
it's
there's
so
one here.
no? I think you can only see the chair maybe, but
Right.
you can't see the lion, I think so.
Right. It's another idea because he's unaware of there's a lion there beside him.
Unaware of the impending disaster.
Yeah, unaware of the hazard that could strike. Yes.
If there is,
Yeah, there are a lot of views by looking at this image itself.
if these two are to be victims, then this person is in no way to help this animal in time of disaster because he doesn't know how.
Okay.
I think the man probably has an impression that his wife just came.
Yeah.
Very good. Why? He's very happy that his wife has just come.
Amazing.
Okay. So actually, yeah, there are several things that you can take from this image. Actually, here, what we actually can see is there is a possible hazard that could strike at any moment that we can see here. There is a hazard. So this is a hazard is something different to a disaster. Hazard, when it comes in contact with a person, we call it as a disaster. Until then, it's a hazard. Suppose the lion can be a hazard or he can be a hazard to a lion, other anyway. So if we consider a lion can be a hazard to this person. So we need to see what is this person's reaction and what is his capacity. Let's see in case the lion is going to pounce on him, does he have the capacity to defend himself? He looks a very cool person with a t-shirt. He doesn't have enough capacity to save himself. This is one thing. So we can see there is a hazard. We can see what capacity he has in terms of defending himself. Then how vulnerable is he to be attacked? So his capacity, his vulnerability, and the chance of the hazard to cause a disaster. Finally, overall, if you look at this picture, what is the level of risk existing in this scenario? Yeah, there is a very high risk. Suppose the lion is not here, the risk level is low. So take the same picture to our community. We place our community here, our village is here. There is a coastal area, the sea is here. The sea is a hazard that we see. And the community is settling close to the coast, along with your animals, the livestock, the companion animals. How vulnerable are they? What capacity they have in managing the hazard that will strike? And what is the level of risk existing in that scenario? So these are the concepts that we can take just from this image. And there is a simple formula to understand how you measure the risk. If you want to get the risk for this area, you know that there is a hazard multiplied by the vulnerability of this person. You can minus or divide the capacity of each code. If you take into consideration all these factors, you will be able to analyze the level of risk existing in this scenario. So we have understood in this scenario what is the hazard, what is the capacity, how vulnerable a person is, what is the risk existing in this scenario. And this is what we are talking about in disaster management in general. So this is just to have an understanding about the concepts, but we need to put this into the practical life that we are living in looking at the community as such, like what are the things that we need to consider in terms of disaster management and protecting animals in particular. So I have another image. What is this? What does this image talk about? There is a rock that has fallen on a person.
Landslide.
Yeah, it can be a landslide or something. So it's a disaster. It's a disaster. We see that this rock that has fallen on a person has caused a disaster. So there's another image. What does this image say? There's a person shouting there saying, watch out, the rock is falling. And this person is running. What does this say? This person was prepared enough. Yeah, exactly. He was prepared enough to go so that the rock doesn't fall on him. So we can see what is preparedness. So there's something we can say, what does this say? So he's just going watching at the rock. There's no way the rock will fall on me because it's firmly tied towards the hill. So it's very cool. So this is the prevention. We talk about prevention. So what does prevention mean in terms of our, suppose we are living in a coastal area, there's a chance of a tsunami to strike in the coastal area where there are several animals. And how can we prevent the tsunami?
Evacuation. Evacuation.
Yeah.
Evacuation.
Evacuation, yeah, very good. Evacuation is a very good preparedness measure. Very good point. Yeah, in prevention, suppose you are going to have some artificial barriers or mangrove plantation, which can prevent the force of the water come and destroy the village. So what are that we call it as a preventive measure. So what are the preparedness measures we need to take in serving our animals? What are the preventive measures we can take to save our animals? And finally, there's another one. What does this mean? We can do this. We can do any of this. Not this. Because we will be in disaster. So we can be prepared, we can prevent, and we can mitigate to some extent. Suppose Delhi is an earthquake-prone area, and you are going to construct a construction which is earthquake resistant. You are mitigated enough to manage the disaster situation. So these are the things we can take in mind to see that, to have an understanding about the concepts of disaster management in brief. There's a small role play, but if you're interested, we can do it. or I can do. Are you interested for a role play? Short role?
This is what we understand about the concept.
Yeah, just for the stages of the disaster. If you're interested, we can have a role play. So I have some tags with me. So there are some roles written on these tags, and you can pick up a tag, and whatever role is that, you can just wait. You need not do anything. So I'll just be reading out the type of situation. There will be a sequence of situations that's happening in this hall. Depending on the situation, you just need to see how comfortable are you. If you are comfortable enough, you need to keep one step back. If you are not comfortable, you just need to keep one step back. That's it. You need not do anything, no activity. That's it. Just your role. Depending on your role, suppose you are a police officer, you're standing and there is an assessment happening. Are you confident in an assessment situation? You keep one step back. You're not confident, you keep one step back. So, are we ready for this short game? Just 5 minutes.
You are comfortable.
Yeah, if you, I'll be dictating the sequence of that.
Are you comfortable?
If you're comfortable, there will be a sequence of disaster events happening.
Going with confidence.
Yeah, depending on confidence level. So this hall has been affected by disaster, and there will be some activities happening in this hall, and you are a particular role. Depending on that role, in that situation, how comfortable you are. I'll be dictating the situation. Depending on, you can just keep one step back or one step. That's it. Or you can stay in the same place. I think I'll keep it the other way. We are right now in this hall, number 4, which is affected by disaster. And we all have our own roles. So you remember your roles. So right now, there is an assessment. There is a disaster assessment happening in this hall. So how comfortable are you depending on your roles? There is a disaster assessment going on here. Like how many people have lost their life, how many animals have been injured, how many animals have been vaccinated before. There is an assessment happening here. So how comfortable are you in this situation? Depending on your role. You just be one friend or one friend. So next, there is a coordination meeting happening here between different stakeholders for the welfare of animals. So how comfortable are you? Now but there are several stakeholders meeting to design an intervention to meet the needs of animals. So how comfortable are you in this situation? Depending on your role. Yes. There is a meeting happening here to design the project intervention for meeting the needs of animals affected by disaster here. So in this scenario, they are designing the interventions. How comfortable are you in this process? Right. So right now there is a relief distribution going on for the people and animals affected by disaster here. So there is a relief, some organization is distributing relief. Yeah. So for people and animals, how comfortable are you? So there is a government officer here who is recording the compensation of losses for the animals and people, and how many people are comfortable in recording and getting the compensation from the government in this situation. There is a government officer sitting over here and recording the
liking it.
Depending on your role.
No, but
No,
at ease or liking it.
Liking is depends on the role now.
No, that is right.
Whether you will be able to take part in it,
Okay,
whether
that
you
way.
have a say over it, or
Okay,
you not have a say.
alright.
Yeah.
So not outside is not about it. Alright.
Okay. So, okay. So just I would request the person who's standing at the back. So you are the last. Can you please say your role?
Okay, my role, I'm a cancer patient,
Cancer patient.
according to my role.
Yeah.
So obviously in a acute situation, you will forget all your own problems or you will be changed. But when it comes to, things to, assassinated, your own suffering is coming back to you and you don't have the strength to, but initially, the acute situation, you will just forget about it and you will just try everything that's still in you to just help. But afterwards, I can understand that I can't really understand, but I'm a nurse, so I can a little bit relate to it. So I don't think it will be possible for me as a cancer patient to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't really explain, but
Yeah. So the next,
UN official.
you are official.
So I think lot of local activities are happening. Only in assessment or in the strategy planning I am there.
Right.
So actual, so I am just
Volunteering from
yeah.
far away. Yes, sir.
I'm 8 years old.
8 years old. Okay. So you will participate in this process. Okay. No. Okay. Right. So who is the leading here? I think, sir.
I'm actually a widow. I need a always prevention.
Owner of animal owner.
Dairy farm.
Dairy farm owner.
I am a leader here, political leader.
Political.
Yes, I am a leader.
Journalist. So you have
Uneducated
Uneducated.
uneducated animal. Thank you so much, please.
Thank you.
I don't know, sometimes
So just a small message that we can take. We all are in the straight line. We all are in the same situation, same form. But disaster everyone has a different need. Everyone are in a different position. So animals, people, everyone are scattered when there is a disaster, and everyone has a different role to play, and everyone takes a different stand. So through this role play, we can understand that in a disaster, even if it affects the same area, the needs are several. It differs from person to person, from animal to animal, and depending on the intensity that it can cause. Just a short message to this game, and we proceed further. I don't know how far we are in the time for this. But we have still we have 1 hour. 40 minutes. So this is a disaster risk management cycle by UN International Strategy for Disaster Reduction. So this is a UN designed disaster risk management cycle. What Dr. Sinas already has shared. I'm just giving the context. So as soon as a disaster strikes, what is the next step that happens? Immediately after disaster, what happens? Suppose there is a disaster, the next after disaster.
Need arises.
Need arises, exactly.
The agency step in.
Agencies, humanitarian organizations step in. Yeah, exactly. Rescue and mitigation happens, exactly. So we can see that there is a response and early recovery that takes place during that initial part immediately after disaster. Then we have the recovery phase where we let the the stage, either the community or the people and animals to recover to a particular period. Then we have the reconstruction. So all these three stages after disaster, we call it as a sustainable development stage. Because usually, why this is called sustainable development is we don't take into consideration a futuristic plan to prevent future disaster happening in this same area. So these measures that we take here should enable a sustainable development so that we can cope in case of future disaster as well. So that's why this is termed as a sustainable development stage. And then we have the next stage that comes as the risk identification. So suppose we have done the reconstruction, we don't stop there. We need to again identify what are the existing risks in that scenario. What are the possible risks existing for people and animals? What are the ways we can mitigate and prevent? So as we saw, what are the measures we need to prevent and mitigate? Both. Then what are the preparedness measures that we can take in case we are not able to move away from that place or do anything big in that area? What are the immediate preparedness measures? Are we ready to evacuate with the animals and to meet the next disaster? So this case,
this risk identification part of the process starts after the disaster takes place.
actually no.
I mean, according to this,
This actually, yes, risk identification can be done anywhere, irrespective of whether there is a disaster or not a disaster. This is a cycle, it can start from anywhere. I'm just bringing it from the disaster phase as it's more like we see what we go for. But it can cycle as a vicious cycle. It can be from anywhere. We can do a risk assessment here also to identify what are the possible risks existing here and then plan the mitigation measures to reduce that risk.
that's always better.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the enormity of the risk is not understood until the disaster is started, right?
But there are some areas prone to earthquakes, like Korean
Yeah, road means that so they have the history of the disaster. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yes.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's a very valid point because risk identification can be done anywhere.
Yes.
And usually it is done in yeah, because unless we do a risk identification, we will not know what risk is existing in that.
For a known type of disaster, we can actually carry out the risk first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. So this stage we call it as the disaster risk reduction stage. This point. Usually now the focus is more here. More organizations earlier were focusing only on these three areas, where the humanitarian action was more. Only in this concentrated in these areas. But later we moved to this part. And as rightly pointed out, we are now in this stage, disaster risk reduction. So we need to emphasize more on disaster risk reduction. So prevention is always better than cure. So this approach is now being promoted. And earlier we had a development how to respond and immediately after disaster how to respond. It's more a defensive approach.
It was a reactive, it's proactive.
Exactly. This is a more proactive approach in terms of how we need to take measures and reducing the risk. Risk reduction, as we saw in that lion image, how we can reduce, what are the risks and how we need to reduce it so that we can save the animals in that area. This is brief about the cycle. Now coming into the disaster's impact on animals. So what impact has the animals suffered so far in disaster? As such, there is no proper statistical data recorded of any disasters in India. But there are some information that we can get through the government sources on focus on only cattle. More emphasis on cattle and other animals. But in general, for all animals, it's very difficult to get the data of disaster because there is no record of it. So here you can see the total cattle loss from 1953 to 2005 is 5,026.49 thousands. That is 94,000 cattle is lost due to floods annually. Every year, 94,000 cattle is being lost. Only cattle. Then you can imagine about the other animals. This is only the information about cattle. So this information is available on the NDMA, National Disaster Management Guidelines on floods. So this is the source for this information. And in Odisha super cyclone, as there was more than 6 lakh perished. So this is not from a government source, this is from internet info chain India. So this super cyclone was so severe that so many animals got affected in Orissa. In Orissa, not all over India, only one state. Yeah. And this, there's another data that says that total cattle loss in 2011, only in 2011 was 6,976 cattle loss, only in 2011. This is as per the Ministry of Home Affairs annual report. They have this data and focus, they have data only from the cattle that have been lost in disasters and not for any other animals, because there's no record of the animals that have been lost. So, we see average annual cattle loss due to floods, only floods and only cattle. So there are several other disasters, several other animals. Is 85,000, more than 85,000. This is as per the Central Water Commission report. As per their report, we have this data. So if you see globally, there are maybe 40 to 50 million animals suffer in disaster every year. You can imagine the intensity of animals, the number of animals that suffer every year due to disaster. So there is a high time we need to address the need of animals in disaster, and then we actually in India we are lack of resources in terms of addressing the needs of animals in disasters. As Dr. Sinha was rightly saying, we need more players to come in, to join hands and work together in addressing the needs of animals, because animals matter in disaster. Which usually we only focus our need only on people, and we forget the needs of animals.
So these we're talking about domesticated animals, not the ones in the wilderness. So they can't do anything at all. I mean, in case of some natural disasters, floods or earthquakes or tsunamis, so out in the wilderness nothing can be done. So we are basically concentrating on the domesticated animals like cattle, like dogs.
This is going to be lower because these animals are in Indian tradition. These are giving some sort of alternative livelihood to the population, especially in the rural countries, rural areas. Once they lose their everything, the cows, because they crop everything, that is the only liquid assets they have to sustain them for some time. And because they cannot completely go through the cropping and all. That's why we insist on this to be targeted to protect, because only this is going to take you further to that particular limitation. Market will come later.
Shall we move on? So now coming to legs. So before I go into this slide, a short video.
Surviving disaster without their animals would mean destitution for these people. And for millions like them around the world, animals are vital for labour, fertiliser and transport, as well as nutrition. But supporting livestock livelihoods through emergencies can be complex, even for specialists. So good practice from around the world was brought together by the LEGS project and published in 2009 as a handbook. The Livestock Emergency Guidelines and Standards aim to improve the quality and impact of livestock projects in rapid onset disasters like avalanches and earthquakes, slow onset scenarios like extended winters or droughts, and even complex conflict-ridden situations. The guidelines are being rolled out through regional training programs. Reception has been positive.
विशेष गरी यो लाइफस्टक सेक्टरमा चाहिँ डिजास्टर लाइफस्टक सेक्टर जहिले पनि इग्नोर गरेको हुन्छ। त्यो कुरा चाहिँ लेक्सले कसरी तिनीहरूलाई इन्टरभेटमा लाने भन्ने कुरा गरेको हुनाले पनि लेक्सको साइड मन पराएन।
LEGS trainers teach a four-stage systematic approach to project design. So interventions are based not only on best practice, but also on research into ground realities.
If we cannot analyze that thing, then our resources will be wasted, like powering water and the sand.
And LEX is already being implemented, involving communities in decision making.
We'll be using the 4 stages in the LEX approach, and with the knowledge we had about the LEX, we were able to see how we can support LEX with best approaches. Let's assist the communities and the organizations to think in a more organized way.
Sub-Saharan Africa, South and Southeast Asia already have LEX trainers at work. Next steps include expanding into other regions, adding a rapid response module for in-situ training, translating materials into more languages, and revising the handbook. It's vital we acknowledge livestock and livelihoods in humanitarian response.
It is the right of these people to have food, it is their right to have a livelihood.
When there is an emergency, first attempt to go to the human beings to save the human lives. But we always forget the importance of the livelihood.
If we forget that, then the humanitarian doesn't work.
For more information or to download the handbook, visit www.livestock-emergency.net or contact the LEX coordinator.
So, emergency guidelines and standards is what it talks about. And here in this is a set of international standards to improve the quality of livestock programs. The main purpose of this document is to plan and design livestock-based intervention. Suppose your organization wants to plan a livestock-based emergency program. This would be the ideal option to think of how we need to plan a livestock-based emergency. Or in times of emergency, you want to design a project. This will help you in designing a project. So this is a kind of tool that will help in planning and designing livestock-based projects or programs. This is the first thing. And this is designed for the humanitarian context, follows the right-based approach and has companion status here, which I was sharing before. This follows the right-based approach and focus only on humanitarian context, not on normal situation during times of emergencies, how it can be applied. So this and so here in this focus inside this handbook is mainly given to the large scale or repeated disasters where it has been sub-Saharan, as you see, the sub-Saharan region, African region. Right now there are some cases about Pakistan, Gujarat, but more work has to be done in India that will be highlighted, and we are in the process of updating this. This is the 2009 version, this is the latest, and it is still in the process of updating to have a new version as well. So this complements the SPEAR handbook. This is a SPEAR handbook for people, humanitarians, and this follows the same process of SPEAR, but focus on livestock. In this, what does this handbook talk about? This handbook talks about international standards that you need to maintain in terms of 6 technical interventions. There are 6 technical interventions that is being highlighted. One is the de-stocking of animals. Suppose there is a disaster, how you need to de-stock the animals during emergencies. There is a standard for de-stocking. There is a standard for feed supply. What is the minimum feed requirement that you can provide for livestock? What are the qualitative things that you need to consider in terms of planning the feed for your livestock in emergencies? Third is the water supply. What is the provisions that you need to make for ensuring sufficient water is there for your livestock? Then fourth, we have the shelter management. What are the shelter requirements that we need to have? Sufficient space allocation for the animals in disasters. Then we have the veterinary care, health care. What are the basic veterinary services that should be given to the animals during emergencies? Then finally, we have the restock. So these are the 6 technical interventions in this, and there are several minimum standards mentioned in this handbook, which will really help you. You can go through this handbook If you want a copy of this, there is a soft copy on the website, Lex website. You can download it free of cost. And this sphere, if you want to know about humanitarians, you can download this also from the sphere website. So from next 5 years onwards, from 2030, that we'll be planning how we can have the Lex, roll out the Lex trainings in India. So for all the different stakeholders. So this the participants will be receiving an international recognized Lex certificate. So that you will be able to use the Lex standards to design your interventions for your organization. So whatever projects you are designing based on the minimum standards internationally recognized, this will be really helpful. Next, coming to our work, WSPA's disaster management initiatives in India. So this, just on my right, is some of the information, education and communication materials that have been developed. Here, as we can see, the needs of the companion animals or the wild animals is not addressed here. We are only focusing on the livestock. Like here, the first row talks about the 5 freedoms. The first column talks about the 5 freedoms that every livestock should have. That is the freedom from hunger and thirst, freedom from discomfort, freedom from pain, injury and disease, freedom from fear and distress, freedom to express normal behavior. These are the 5 freedoms we are trying to say, which is internationally recognized and that we need to provide to all the animals. This is focused on the livestock in particular. Then what are the basic animal care that we can provide? Then after the livestock emergency management, during emergency how we need to manage your livestock in taking better care, evacuation with the animal, labeling, shelter requirement, and coordinating with the organizations in availing the compensation. So then disaster management programs. One is the disaster risk reduction initiatives, one is the disaster response initiatives. So as if you recall the disaster management cycle which we were talking about, disaster response is the below half, disaster risk is the top half. So we are doing this both simultaneously. We have these 2 programs going on. This disaster risk reduction is an ongoing program. We have a program institutionalizing which is called Veterinary Emergency Response Unit, what Dr. Sinha just shared just before. We are planning, this is a model unit that we have established in Bihar Veterinary College, which is a pilot, and as it has been successful, now we are planning to expand it to the 5 regions of India. Now we are working out an MOU with DMA, where we will be having different veterinary emergency response units for different regions. And all over the world, we have 8 PAUs globally and 40 disaster liaison officers for every country. So we are right now in 157 countries, and we have 40 disaster liaison officers who are liaising for every country. One country has 1 disaster liaison officer. And then we have the community preparedness work in terms of how we need to prepare the community in managing this work, that how we need to prepare the community, creating awareness and managing their animals effectively. So this is that ongoing work in one side. Simultaneously, suppose there is a disaster, we are responding as well. That's disaster response work. Since 2008, till now we have been responded to several disasters in Odisha, Leh Ladakh, Bihar, Andhra Pradesh floods, West Bengal floods, Odisha. Now recently in Assam, we have a flood response work going on. And as part of that work, right now we are having a construction of animal shelters. So the animal shelters in a raised area so that it doesn't get affected. They have sufficient water storage facility to manage in terms of disasters. And we have connected veterinary health camps and also provided veterinary surgical kits to the dispensaries, government dispensaries, so that they can provide quality service, veterinary service to the animals that are injured in disasters. So these are some of the 2 broad heads in disaster management which WSPA is working. And we need to know more. There is a blog for animals in disasters. This is a blog started by WSPA, which is called Animals in Disasters. Anyone can access it. So here there's a whole lot of information of what WSPA is doing. What WSPA is doing globally in every country for managing the animals. So right now here you can see about the work in Assam, what we have done in Assam. Just need a 2 to 5 minutes. Sure. This is Assam also. And if you are interested to receive updates on Facebook also, so you can receive updates from WSPA, USA, WSPA Australia, and if you want to know, you will get updated on Facebook also. So we have social media also. This is our work. So you can go through this resources if you are interested in more. When you have time, because we are running out of time now. Just 30. So then there is a small, I just have a 30-second video. You just give me time.
Electricity goes out and batteries. Very good. Food, body cans. Hey, and water. And if there's an emergency, what will you do about me? During an emergency, we animals need attention. Make an emergency plan that includes us too. We animals are a part of your family. This is on the World Society for the Protection of Animals.
Just finish it. So this is just for an emergency plan. Usually we have an emergency plan. We don't want to make an emergency plan only for animals. As we saw in the video, we need to make an emergency plan. People, along with the community, so that they feel responsible that they are also protected, the animal also is protected. We need a holistic approach. That's where we are advocating on why animals matter in disaster. These are some of the things that we see. This is our structure, which you can see. Here are some very good resources. You can go through this. If you want to know more about the Disaster Management Act rules and guidelines, you can visit the Ministry of Home Affairs website. Here we have. So you can have a very good information about what to understand about the Disaster Management Act rules and regulations. Suppose you want to know about the different guidelines for different disasters, for flood, earthquake, emergencies, landslides, all guidelines you will be able to get from NDMA's website.
NDMA guidelines, I have to copy of it if you want to. Especially chapter 6 pertaining to actual disaster management.
This is given the sole importance, and there are a lot of things in that guidelines, but there are gaps that we need to address also. So you can go through that section. What are the gaps that we need to work on? So it's a very good area.
So there's also an action plan also. You can press upon your local government. As per the NDMA guidelines, these things have to be done. Have you done it? And that is binding on them.
So then we have this NITM, National Institute of Disaster Management website, where you can get all the training and capacity building components. Then for monitoring the weather, we have the IMD. Then are you aware of this India Disaster Resource Inventory? There is an inventory called India Disaster Resource Inventory. Suppose there is a place affected by disaster. You need an ambulance, you need a bus, you need a crane, you need a lorry. Whatever resources you need, you can go there. It's accessible to the public. You just put the state, district, and what resource you need to select, you get the contract. Only if the district administration updates it. There are some districts who are updating it very well. So you need not go in search of anywhere. You can just go into this website, which is the reliable one, to get access of the contact. Suppose you need a boat to evacuate someone, you can get the number of boats there. So all this disaster resource inventory will be available here. These are the government resources which will be really helpful for you. There are other international resources like glide number. There is a number like every disaster will have a glide number, which means global identifier number. Unless that disaster gets a glide number, it is not globally recognized. So there can be a disaster here somewhere and we say that we responded to a disaster, which you might have responded, but it's not internationally recognized. If there is a disaster and it gets generated, and a glide number gets generated, then you address, then it is internationally recognized. So you can get to know more about the glide number in this. Every disaster will have a number, glide number. Then there is a GDAX. Suppose you need to understand the alert of the disaster, what level of alert. So you can global disaster alert coordination system will be very helpful globally. Then EMDAT. Suppose you need a lot of statistics on disaster management. I want statistic data, I want maps. You want statistics of the history of the disasters in India. You get everything from EMDAT website, emergency database. Then there is one more, this one for UN ISDR is a very good source. You can get a lot of publications and reports for example. And even OCHA, which you might be familiar with. There are some interesting games if you are interested. You can go through that. I don't have time to see that games. There is a game called Stop Disasters game. It's very, very practical. You will be given a particular amount of $50,000 and you will be given 20 minutes of time and you will have a particular task to achieve within that time. And there will be small village to manage. You have to build houses, you have to build hotels, you have to save the people very practically in the game itself. And after 20 minutes, that area will get affected and you will get a report. How well was your planning? A media report. And if you do it well, your name will get a gold medal certificate on the online gold medal certificate and your name will be registered on UNISDR's website. So you can try if you can get your name on the website, UNISDR's website. Then there is another game called Rock, Cover, Hold On, which is the Beat the Quake, which is very just 5-10 minutes game. Very, very quick. Like, suppose there is a room, house, several objects, you click on the objects and it will give instructions on what to do. And if you do it rightly, you will get more points. If you do it wrong, you will get lesser points. So it depends on what actions to take and how prepared you are in managing this. So there are several other things apart from this also, but I stop with this. In case you need further inputs, please contact me anytime. Or you can know more about it, you can visit WSPA's website. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sinha, for the lively session. I have to cut short your session because we're running short of time. I request the founder of press, please tell us the table.
Very thankful to all of you and especially Liapo for this opportunity. Very glad. And if you are really interested, we can work out how we can work together. We are very happy for coordination and all. Yes. Thank you so much.
And which are our ally organizations? They could be any organization which would be like this. But along with that, we can also approach the political parties which are into religious politics and also join in with this.
Thank you. When last. Oh, I thought you were part of that.
In Nepal. So, what exactly we want to do? We came up with a couple of things. First thing would be obviously pass legislations in Nepal. If Nepal government pass legislations to stop this animal sacrifice practice, as you might know that this is probably the biggest animal sacrifice that happens, religious animal sacrifice that happens in the entire world. The second thing would be stopping animal food. India going to the festival and being sacrificed there.
But that would be more of a automated byproduct of the legislation.
Yeah.
No,
that means you have to legislate in Nepal and in India.
Yes.
Both.
Yes. So we're just trying to take into consideration all the stakeholders and have a holistic approach. And then why do we want this? Because it saves about 1.5 million animals' lives. And so I have a very economic approach to it. Like I was talking to Justin about it. I mean, the amount of money the government of Nepal is going to be spending on cleaning up the mess that this festival is going to be leaving behind. Public expenditure increases, there's expenditure on health departments, sanitation, and cleaning up the carcasses, disposal. So a lot of complications. Twice as much money, considering the fact that we're studying about how the government itself seems to be funding the festival and some of the authorities and politicians seem to be giving in money to this. So this is like it's like twice the price the amount of money the government of Nepal is spending, but they could spend much less. And we're trying to give incentives to like economic incentives. Everybody, money works best for people, right? So economic incentives. Which individuals or institutions have the power to give what you want? We were thinking about NGOs, national authorities, legal advisors and staff organizations, religious groups across the world, and then devotees, considering the fact that they're the ones who are actually going there, conducting these animal sacrifices in the South Africa. And then what is the process of timeline? festival, non-religious perspective as well. So, and then are there sufficient number of stakeholders that will roll up their sleeves to make this a top priority in their work plan? Not exactly, not to be then considering how sensitive the issues, because it's religion that we're talking about. And we know about how in India, even police authorities take faster and say, no, we're not going to be doing anything, we're not going to be this. Yeah, who's our opposition, religious extremists, and people who believe in traditional practices that have been going on over a century now. And then research and policy analysis, what the priority data needs, I mean, I think more or less everything is covered. Grassroots we need the heads of government, administrative power, education. And at grassroots level, we've seen the village leaders who go out there and talk to people and try to convince them that you don't need to sacrifice animals. And he explained as to how it's not even like a normal animal sacrifice where you just have a bunch of people going there and erratically hacking buffaloes just with the head of it. So about how to explain to them how growing this is, how unnecessary this is, and reach out to them at the grassroots level. And then media literacy, visual media primarily because it has the impact that we're looking for. We need people to understand how ridiculous this is actually happening around animals in the name of religion, and how absurd it sounds, and we need to spread awareness and get people.
Talking about decision makers application, like Joe was suggesting, finding some rules to get a perfect example of Hungarians, rule or something like that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find some Indian influential people who can actually pull some strings in the political dynamics of the power and make something actually happen. So that's one way we have sorted out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for agreeing to skip. They did a wonderful thing on how to ban animals in circuses, and they kind of we talk about some because I've got multiple messages that you all are hungry and you should eat.
You want this. Why do you want data defines the problem and defines the proposed solution? What is the return on investment? Animals face cruelty. They go through rigorous training. They cannot express their natural behavior. What is the return on investment? A better life for animals. And cost of failing, political pressure, because government gets taxes and they acquire the land for circus for months. Which individual and or institutions are the part of what you want? Who are the key decision makers? I would say Environment Ministry, AWPI, municipality, local MLA, MP, or mayor, local mayor, city mayor. What is process and timeline? I would say 2 to 3 years time for a complete ban all over India. And the process would be continuous campaigns, demonstrations, media support, and online polling. Also, missed call would be a great tool too. Other allied organizations that share mission, who wins if you win, PETA, FIAPO, HSI, etc. Are there a sufficient number of stakeholders, partner organizations, I would say celebrities who love animals can write letters or support us? Again, the organizations which we all know. Who is their opposition? Obviously, the animal trainers. They get a lot of money training tigers, training elephants, and circus organizers. Obviously. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Before you go, very quickly, the Humane Society International, in partnership with the Federation of Indian Animal Protection Organization, has launched a program called P23. It's a global campaign that we've launched in India to end the cosmetic testing of animals, and not only just the testing, but ban on the sale of products which are also tested on animals in India. Obviously, we cannot do this alone. As I said yesterday, we can only do it if we coordinate, network, and meet with other. Please feel free to call us. You give us a missed call. So you have the website to visit. It's bhsi.org/P23. You've got an SMS. And if any of your groups are interested to partner with us in this particular endeavor to end cosmetic testing of animals, please feel free to contact Alok Parna. She's just going to hang around out, get her business cards, and I really hope that in IFA 2013 we can actually announce an end for cosmetic testing of animals.